my next question is, what does a wreath even do for a door? Why do people bother putting wreaths on their doors?
Some of it is just to welcome people in, friends, families, neighbors. There's something just very kind of thought provoking or comforting about seeing a wreath on a door. I think it also kind of depicts the family on the inside of the house and reflects their personality. And the fun thing about wreaths is they don't just have to be on a door.
Yeah.
They can go into other parts of your homes and be used in various ways. But I think the big thing is for a wreath on a front door is it evokes a sense of welcome, and then it can be changed out with the seasons. And some people are all in on that, and other people just want it to be there and just be subtle and be more of an everyday wreath, and that's cool too.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that because it can really give the passerbys or the guests coming in a little sense of who it is that lives in that home, right? Or it can just be a little ray of sunshine on your front door.
Welcome to Redesigning Health and Home. I'm Meg.
And I'm Kerri. We love creating beautiful, functional spaces and living healthy, vibrant lives. So join us as we chat about simple, practical ways to take care of your body, mind, and your home. Whether it's fitness tips, home decor ideas, recipe, or navigating those big life moments, we're here to share what works for us and what doesn't, with some encouragement along the way.
Let's redesign this life together, one step, one room, and one habit at a time.
Hello and welcome to Redesigning Health and Home. I'm your host, Kerri, and today I'm joined by the beautiful Barbara Jack, and I can say that because Barbara is my sister. Barbara, welcome to the show. How are things over there?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Carrie. It has become fall here in Indianapolis. Today in particular, we noticed it hit the low 60s. So it was kind of like sweater weather a little bit.
Yes, here too. And it's that kind of weather where you go out in one outfit and then by the middle of the day, you think, I need a different outfit because the weather's completely changed.
Exactly. A good reason to go shopping for clothes.
Oh, yeah, midday outfit changes for sure. So, what I want to tell our listeners about Barbara is that she has done a little bit of reinventing herself recently. So, Barbara was working part time and also running her own business as a home stager. And things changed for Barb, and she kind of had to switch up what she was doing with her life. So, fill us in a little bit on your backstory, Barb, and maybe also a little bit about how creativity has been part of your life for a really long time.
It's actually kind of funny when I was looking at your suggested questions. I was thinking back, like, how did this all get started? And when you have three little girls and you live in Canada in the winter, you need a way to entertain those three little girls. And crafting became a big part of our lives and somewhat for entertainment, but also for memory making. And we were always broke. So it became also gift giving.
Yeah.
And as my skills developed, I actually had a little side business when we lived in Canada called Special Events Decorating. And I connected with a caterer in our city at the time and helped with decorating for weddings. So I did a lot of floral arrangements. I made a lot of pew and but it was all self-taught. I mean, back in the day, there was no internet to go to learn some of the skills that I am actually refreshing now. So, and then last September, some health things came along that slowed me down a little bit. And so I chose to retire. And then you came out for a little visit and we dabbled with a little bit of wreath making. And you suggested, oh, maybe we should, try this. And I kind of going, yeah, it made a lot of mess.
Oh gosh, I was just thinking about that actually before we hopped on. So a little bit of a mess is an understatement. So what was funny to me was I am like happily making the mess. We had stuff from here to next week, and I remember your poor husband Morley coming in, and he's trying to find a space to eat his lunch, and I have stuff covered on every single surface, and I think he was just like, "Really? Do you have to use every space available?"
And he was holding his plate with his sandwich. He's going, "There's no clean flat surface."
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Um, so when we had done that, at the time, I wasn't sure that the wreath making thing was the thing for me. But then a little bit of time passed, and you and I had done some chatting, and we decided we'd give it a shot. And what I came to learn in the midst of that was the creativity piece was really important to me.
Mhm.
It helped with the imagination. It helped with de-stressing. Um, I figured out a way to contain my mess so my husband does have a place to put down his plate for his lunch. Though I will confess there's some days that could be challenging. But we have a sunroom with a table, so he's fine. So yeah, now I've got a little Etsy shop and just ramping up for the Christmas season and have my hands in florals and a glue gun on the hip. So
That's awesome. And I recall some of your ventures in crafting. So Barb's being a little bit modest here because there's been many reiterations of your crafting abilities and ventures over the years. But what I specifically like about the wreaths is that it's a compact project, right? It's just as
right,
big as the wreath is. For a while, Barb and I were refinishing furniture. We had an absolute ball, but schlepping around all that heavy furniture kind of wears thin after a while. So what I love about the wreath projects and the beautiful bows that you make is they're quite compact, right? They're quite light.
right, right. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So finding something that fits into the age and stage of life we are, I just think is just a really important thing to look for. My next question is, what does a wreath even do for a door? Why do people bother putting wreaths on their doors, do you think?
Well, some of it is just to welcome people in, friends, families, neighbors. A neighbor going on a walk will be quite, I was going to use the word entertained, but there's something just very kind of thought provoking or comforting about seeing a wreath on a door. I think it also kind of depicts the family on the inside of the house and reflects their personality. And the fun thing about wreaths is they don't just have to be on a door.
Yes. Yeah.
They can go into other parts of your homes and be used in various ways. But I think the big thing is for a wreath on a front door is it evokes a sense of welcome, and then it can be changed out with the seasons. And some people are all in on that, and other people just want it to be there and just be subtle and be more of an everyday wreath, and that's cool too.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that because it can really give the people, as you mentioned, the passerbys or the guests coming in or just the family that lives there, a little sense of who it is that lives in that home, right? If it's got some personality to it. Or it can just be a little ray of sunshine on your front door. It doesn't have, it doesn't have to be crazy. So you mentioned some different ways to use wreaths other than on your front door. And so tell us about some of your favorite ways to use wreaths that maybe people hadn't really thought about.
Well, I love one over the mantle on the fireplace. It's one of my
Yes.
favorites. In our guest room, I have one over the bed, and I love it in that room. And then there's just a softness about it in a guest room that just, I don't know, just sets an atmosphere. I
Mhm.
had a ball making wreaths with our grandchildren. It was just really fun to let their personalities shine through. It was hard for me not to want to make it my way and let it be their way.
Yes.
Also used wreaths on the backs of chairs when I've been entertaining for Thanksgiving or Christmas. That's kind of fun. Those wreaths are much smaller and much more understated. I've also used them on kitchen cabinets. You can lay a wreath flat on a table and put a candle in the center. There's just so many ways that you can use them. I love them in a front entry, in a dining room, over a sideboard is lovely. But
Yeah.
even just in transitioning spaces, I've been wanting to put one in our downstairs basement stairwell as you transition from the main floor down. But now I'm using it to store bows, so much fun. Yeah, but I thought it
Right.
would be kind of a fun way to transition into that.
Yeah, and the ways to hang wreaths have really come a long way. Like it used to be, if you're not willing to put a nail in your front door, you can't hang one. But now
Right.
there's so many great ways to hang it where you don't damage your surfaces. But also, now they even have those freestanding wreath stands where you just set it on a table and you can hang the wreath on it and literally it can go anywhere. So, what are some of your favorite ways to hang wreaths? Because that can be an issue, especially for people maybe who live in an apartment building, you know?
Right. Command hooks are a really great way to hang wreaths on interior doors or on the wall in the interior, even on interior kitchen cabinets, on the doors of your kitchen cabinets. Actual over the door wreath hangers work great for front doors. There's the magnetic hangers if you happen to have a metal door on your front door. That works great. I guess you could even then put one on a fridge if you wanted to.
Oh, interesting. Yes, you
I
could.
never thought of that till just now. But anyway,
That would be fun.
it could be at the right time, right? And then on a glass storm door, they're suction cups, but they've got a two-part system to it where they suction really well. You just need to make sure your door is clean. And that's something to remember when you're wanting to put a wreath on your front door and you decided you really want it to be on between your door and your storm door. You need to make sure that you're measuring the depth so that the wreath you purchase is narrow enough and doesn't get squished from your storm door. But
Yes.
otherwise, there's great ways to hang it on a storm door too.
Yes. I have not done that on occasion. And you hang up this beautiful wreath on your door and you close the storm door and it's all it's all squished. So that's an important point. Good point.
Yes. I made one for one of our daughters and I forgot she had a storm door and sure enough, it got squished. So then I got one of the ones to go in the storm door, but I didn't have the door cleaned well enough. Anyways, it's back between the doors and it's really sad. So I need to fix that.
Well, live and learn, right? Live and
Right?
learn.
Exactly.
So, how do you come up with your color palettes and your themes for your wreaths? What's your sort of inspiration for coming up with your various designs?
So the season will dictate a lot. So right now I'm moving full into Christmas. And I know it sounds ridiculous because we're only like a week into official fall. But if I'm not ready when my customers are ready, then it's too late because you need to allow for time for shipping. So right now, the stores that I'm buying from are dictating some of my options.
Mhm.
But I can also go on to Pinterest or other sites to get some inspiration ideas as to what kind of the trending colors are and also just kind of for unique ideas and different ways to use the greenery and florals and ribbons if I choose to use ribbons.
Well, I recall you posting some videos on your socials, which we will talk about in a minute because Barbara does have a presence on Instagram and Facebook. But just showing how to kind of put a variety of ribbons together, or a color palette together for a particular wreath. I think that's where your creativity comes into because not everybody could do that. The ribbon combinations that you choose are just gorgeous. And one thing that we haven't even talked about yet, in addition to Barbara's wreaths, all those pew bows that you used to make back in the day has come back around now because Barbara makes the most beautiful bows that can be used in so many different ways. I think that your collection of ribbon has far surpassed mine, which is saying something because my husband will tell you I have bins and bins and bins of ribbons. So tell us a bit about the bows that you make and how people could even use them.
So the bows that I make are usually there's an inspiration bow. And so usually there's one that has a pattern that would be my focal ribbon. And then there would be maybe another one that has like a plaid or a stripe or a check to it, and then another one that might have like a Swiss dot or a
Yeah.
larger dot, and then you pull all these combinations together, or it could be a solid as well. So those are all so very fun to work with. And then the way they can be used to refresh an old wreath that you've already have that is maybe just looking a little bit sad and just needs a little freshening. They can be used on those. They can be used on lantern toppers. Some folks will even put them on their outdoor lanterns. You just need to make sure they have some covering so that they're not affected adversely by the weather and direct sunlight.
Right.
And then I've also used them on swags. They can be used on garlands. They can be used on staircases on garlands. They can be used on candle holders, smaller ones, not the big ones,
Sure.
and even on a gift basket. I have started doing some bows for baby boys or baby girls arrive, and those can be put on a bassinet at the hospital as a welcoming or on a mom's door or as part of shower decorations. So there's so many different ways that bows can be used. And of course, as a gift, I just did one for one of our daughters. She was organizing a basket for a fundraiser. And so I just did a bow for that.
Oh, very fun. I just had a vision of a garland on a mantle with one of your beautiful bows in each corner. So two beautiful bows. That would be super pretty.
Yeah.
To on the corners of the garland on the mantle would be a really beautiful place to put them. And I think you and I talked recently about also, those pencil trees that are quite compact. Even using one of your large bows as a tree topper would be a fun idea.
Absolutely. And you see a lot of the makers that I am watching where they take those bows and they enhance them by adding Christmas picks and what have you. And they make those toppers like, wow, like they are,
Showstoppers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I've also seen where bows and ribbons are used to actually dress your Christmas tree for the holiday season. And that's a whole other art all by itself.
Oh, okay. So, like, lots of bows.
Yeah, lots
Oh.
of bows, and then they pull the streamers or the long tails, and they
Oh.
waterfall them down into the tree, and yeah, they're pretty
Oh.
spectacular.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I recall when you and I were dabbling in the wreath making together, we had quite a ball going to one of the local craft stores and loading up on sparkly buttons to put in the center and adding all these fun embellishments. But I want to address this because I think it's quite a unique addition that you've added is you purchased a Cricut for yourself. Tell us about your Cricut machine.
I purchased it, and then I told my family they gave it to me for Christmas.
That's great. Perfect.
Uh, so I was using it a fair amount, mainly for the signs that I was creating for our grandchildren for their rooms. I have a special order right now where um, a lady would like to have a wreath with a sign in it for her mother-in-law. And the one we saw that inspired us, it says, "Welcome to Grandma and Grandpa's admission, one hug." And she felt that really depicted her mother-in-law and the love and warmth in her
Oh.
home and the welcoming of her 10 grandchildren. Wow.
Oh,
A lot of
wow.
grandchildren. Yeah. Can only imagine what her Christmas budget looks like. So yeah, the cricket has been fun. It's been a little bit set aside until here we are again into the Christmas season and
Sure.
starting to think of other ways to use it. But I'm still very much learning on how to use a
Yeah.
cricket, but it's fun.
But it's such a cool addition to the wreaths to be able to add, a child's name or a phrase that you really like the grandma and grandpa one hug. Like how
Right.
cute is that to really personalize something? So I think that's what I think is extra special about your particular business is you can go to one of the big craft stores and buy a wreath. Absolutely, you can. But what's extra special about your business is people can customize it from the size to the color palette to the sign that you put in there with your Cricut designs. And so it becomes very personalized very quickly, which I think is extra special about your particular kind of business. So, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is if somebody is looking to purchase a wreath for their front door or wherever they want to purchase it, are there any tips you can suggest about how they should know what size to buy?
That's a really good question. So for your front door, measure your front door,
Yeah.
for the width in particular,
Uh-huh.
because you don't want the wreath to interfere with the door opening and closing, or with people being able to access the handle, or
Right.
if you need to put in a code, so those types of things. And your door should really be kind of a nice frame or backdrop for your wreath, so there should be some space around it.
Uh-huh.
Would be the best guide. If you go online and search, resize for your door, I'm sure you would get more accurate measurements.
Uh-huh.
On average, I find for a standard front door, a finished size of 22 to 24 inches is pretty good.
Okay.
Anything bigger than that on a standard door starts to look
Uh-huh.
pretty big.
Yeah.
Um,
So kind of like half the width of the door to almost 2/3 of the width of the door
right. So
seems
most
about
doors are
right.
about 36 inches wide. So
Yeah.
you just want a little bit of space around that.
Yeah, for sure. And then is there any kind of tips about shapes? It seems to me, obviously, round is the most popular shape, but I've seen some other wreath shapes that are coming out. Can you talk a little bit about what's out there?
So there is an oval one, and I've used that a few times, and that's kind of fun because it gives a more elongated look on your front door because your door is long. So those are really fun to work with. And most of those that I've seen, they do still kind of a crescent style where it's just really one side and a little bit of the top and the bottom that are decorated. I've also seen some really cool square or rectangular ones as well. I've seen them made on grapevines. I've seen them made on um, the Christmas evergreen wreaths as well, but also on the wooden hoops that you get for doing embroidery. I've seen them make wreaths on those as well, or even the wired hoops. Now, those are a little bit more particular, and I don't like spending that much time on them. Well,
Well,
yeah, if you don't remember anything else about me, Kerri, you know I like it fast and done.
well, that is true. That is true. When I was dabbling in it, I would be struggling with the same darn wreath for days, and Barbara's already made 4, and I'm like, okay.
Not quite. I still can find where, especially when it's a brand new design, it just takes a while to get it right, and then it's
Uh-huh.
always hard to know when to stop. And so I heard another wreath maker say, "If the next thing you put on doesn't add anything to it, don't bother."
Yeah, yeah, kinda like jewelry to an outfit, right?
Right.
Like, you don't want to drown the outfit with the jewelry. So if somebody were to come to you and say, "Barb, I want a custom wreath for my family room," what sorts of things would you take into consideration when you even start to make that wreath for that person?
I would start first with saying, "What is your style? Are you more of a minimalist? Do you like it a little bit more towards the natural? Do you like it heavily floraled or mostly with just greenery? Do you like bows, not like bows? And where are you going to put it? Like, is it going to be in front of a mirror? Is it going to be over a mantle? Is it going to be on a door? Is it going to be in your porch or a sunroom? How you use your space is going to make a difference in what you want the wreath to do within the room." And then I would ask them, what color scheme are you working with? And then we would pull out some of the dominant color, but we would also bring in some complementary colors that work with their space.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then do they like want it like over the top, or do they want it a little more midway?
right.
You know? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really trying to figure out their style. I've done a few custom pieces. One was a refresh for a friend of mine whose in-laws had just moved to the area and were getting set up in their new place. And her mother-in-law had a wreath that she really liked,
Uh-huh.
but the daughter-in-law really wanted it to be refreshed, and she said her favorite things are butterflies, and she loves her family, and the wreath was in blue and white, and that was really all the colors. And so I found this amazing ribbon that had butterflies in it, and it pulled in the blues and the whites, but it also pulled in some yellows and some oranges, and it really took it to another level. And then I did make a sign for that one, welcome to our home, and then the client's name. So, and I managed to put a few butterflies on with that cricket
Mm.
too, so that was super fun. So yeah, it just really means listening and asking a lot of questions.
Yes, yes. And that's what custom is, right?
Right.
Is creating something that suits the personality and the space that it's going in as well. So,
Right.
and you're excellent at that. Barbara sent me a picture of a bow yesterday and she's like, this would look good in your blue room. And I was like, yep, it absolutely would. And you picked ribbons that I would pick. And it's like she could read my mind. So, yes, you have a good intuitive gift that way. Well, Barbara's Etsy shop is called Twig, Twig, Twig and Vine by Barbara. And Barb, can you tell us where our listeners can find you, how they can find your shop, all the things?
Sure. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Once again, Twig and Vine by Barbara. And then I'm also on Etsy, and it is etsy.com/shop/Twig and Vine by Barbara.
Okay, excellent. We will put that in the show notes as well so that people can click that and come directly to your shop. Is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners that we haven't talked about yet?
A wreath is something you can make yourself if you decide that that's something you want. And there's all kinds of inspiration, but just make your home and your environment a place that is welcoming for you and your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think in a recent episode, Meg asked me what my advice would be, and mine was very similar to yours. Basically, if it's something you love, it should be in your home.
Right.
That's pretty simple. So, Meg and I like to ask our guests the question of, are you redesigning anything in your life right now? And if so, what is it?
Currently trying to redesign my health. So a little bit of change in nutrition, trying to increase some exercise in spite of two knees that are not very happy about it. And so, yeah, that's a big piece is redesigning my health and organization in our home. My husband's just recently retired and we're both struggling with the whole knee situation. So managing the space that we have is just getting a little bit more challenging. So
Mhm.
we are courting a little bit the idea of downsizing, but then we still want it to do all the things that this home does for us. And we really do love it here. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't,
for sure. Well, I think that's amazing. I think we're all in some way or other trying to manage our health, right? As we age and we don't get another body apparently. It's not in the plan, and so we have to be gentle and kind to the one that we have. Barbara, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been absolutely delightful talking to you, and I wish you the very best in your business.
thank you so much for having me, Kerri. This has been so much fun. And I wish you and Meg the best with your podcast. It's been delightful to be a part of.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Redesigning Health and Home podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would love for you to like, share, and follow along so you can catch us on all future episodes. You can find me, Meg, at Fit, Fed, Feeling Good on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
And you can find me, Kerri, on my website at homestylewithkerri.com and on Instagram and Facebook at Homestyle with Kerri. That's Kerri. And you can find both of us at Redesigning Health and Home on Instagram and Facebook. So join us next time for more inspiration on creating a home and a lifestyle that truly supports your best health.